What's going on? It's TokyoTron, and welcome to episode 1 of my brand new series, What Happens Next in God of Highschool. As you can probably tell by the title in this series, I'm going to be going over all of the arcs that are in the webtoon that take place after the end of the anime. So let's get into the first arc, the Jin Taejin Arc. Now this arc is a flashback that chronologically takes place years before the start of the story, and it's only 6 chapters long, and it spans from chapter 113 all the way up to chapter 118. Sometime in the 1960s, the South Koreans were able to capture one North Korean spy. They put this one North Korean spy up against the top 50 martial artists of South Korea, and they were all easily defeated. Seeing this, the South realized that their more traditional way of martial arts and taekwondo wasn't going to cut it for upcoming battles, so they set out to develop a new kind of martial arts that could deal with Northern ITF taekwondo. And it just so happens that the master of this new martial arts was Jin Taejin with his renewal taekwondo. And using his new martial art, he was able to easily defeat the Northern operative. Throughout the next couple of years, Taejin set forth to track down and recruit as many strong martial artists and just strong-willed people as possible. He took them all under his wing and trained everyone in using his new renewal taekwondo. After the formation of Taejin's new renewal taekwondo team, the South Korean government noticed that there was some really weird energy levels coming from North Korea, so they decided to send a strike force with Taejin and 20 members of his team all practicing renewal taekwondo to figure out what the power source spiking was in North Korea. And as soon as they arrive in North Korea, they first deal with some fodder, and then their first real threat is Chunsik Moon. One of his men was able to kill a member of Taejin's team, but Taejin's then able to easily wipe out Moon and the rest of his squad in pretty much one attack. After already suffering a great loss, Taejin's team decided to go ahead and get on with the mission. So the next day, they get closer to the hidden power source when they go to explore an underground facility. And at the same time as Taejin and most of his team goes on this mission, one of his members goes on a seemingly safe solo operation, but right as he's almost done, he gets caught by a group of soldiers and unfortunately dies. In the meantime, the rest of Taejin's team finally finds the big source of power, and when they open the door, it's weirdly being protected by a giant monkey. This monkey or gorilla or whatever we want to call it low diffs all of Taejin's squad, so Taejin himself has to step up and fight it. Now Taejin and this monkey start having a really competitive fight and are going blow for blow while the rest of his squad are watching in awe, until now they suddenly have to deal with an entire army who has just invaded the tunnel. While Taejin is still fighting this monkey, the rest of his squad was able to wipe out all 500 of the enemies that were set to kill him. But unfortunately for the rest of Taejin's squad, as soon as they wipe out these 500 enemies, a new wave of superpowered soldiers known as the MK Squadron showed up. And as Taejin's squad is now dealing with more formidable opponents, the gorilla that Taejin is fighting starts to seemingly improve during their fight and even showing intelligence by copying a lot of Taejin's techniques. And from there, things just go from bad to worse. Taejin's starting to lose some ground in the fight, and the MK squad starts wiping out all of Taejin's allies. So Taejin decides to temporarily run away from the monkey and steps in and is able to deal with all of the MK squadron, but one of them who's able to escape with the energy source that the gorilla was protecting, which is now in a briefcase. But as soon as this new adversary starts to run off with the power source, the monkey kind of does a self-destructing technique, except he doesn't actually die. He wipes out most of Taejin's squad, most of the enemies, but he's still relatively fine. So now we only have 5 out of the 20 members that initially came to North Korea that are still alive and fighting with Taejin. And one of the key members that's still alive is Park Il-tae, and this is where he writes a letter to his son, which eventually gets passed down to Il-pyo about Samsu Tachyon, which is his combination of renewal taekwondo and practical tachyon. And if you remember from the anime, this is the letter that Taejin ends up handing to a baby Il-pyo. Now back to the flashback. After this giant nuke that the monkey did, everything was basically just torn up, and now there was a whole new landscape for battle. Everyone was on the surface, and it was almost like a sandy kind of desert environment that everyone was fighting in now. So Taejin reconfronts the monkey and he begins his second part of this huge fight. And Taejin and the monkey are now going blow for blow while the rest of Taejin's team is pretty much chilling, and then they see the guy that took the briefcase get up out of the sand and try to run away again. This masked man is seemingly a lot stronger than all of the other MK agents, and no one knows why at first, until he gets demasked and the rest of Taejin's squad realizes that it was one of their own, Sergeant Choi. Now, Sergeant Choi was a plant from the US that was sent to betray Team Taejin and kill them during the operation. And Choi was able to kill everyone on Team Taejin besides Taejin himself and Park Il-tae. And while this battle's going on, Taejin's still battling the monkey, and the monkey actually transforms, growing maybe twice or 3 times his normal size, but Taejin's able to kick the gorilla's foot off and starts getting the upper hand. And right as Taejin's able to kick the gorilla's foot off, we flash back to Il-tae versus Choi, where he's able to defeat him. But even though Il-tae was able to defeat Choi, it wasn't without a loss, and he ended up dying in the process, leaving his legacy in the hands of Taejin to pass on the letter to his child. And after seeing that, Taejin and the gorilla kept on fighting and kept on getting more and more serious. Then the gorilla launches this weird orange Kamehameha wave, and Taejin's able to block it with just a single kick, and right after doing this, the gorilla detransforms, seemingly using most of its energy. So the monkey's back to normal size, and Taejin and the monkey start brawling, going blow for blow, until inevitably Taejin ends up defeating him. But after seemingly defeating the monkey, within the next either 30 seconds to a minute, the monkey's able to wake up, and Taejin just sits there and asks him if he really wants to keep on fighting. Taejin concedes to the monkey the point that they're pretty much just invading his home and trying to take his property, but the monkey realizes how much stronger Taejin was and sees him as a suitable carrier for his vessel. So the monkey hands Taejin a green crystal with a baby Mori encased in it, and he disappears after handing it away. Him disappearing is somewhat explained as the monkey that Taejin was fighting was actually kind of a creation of baby Mori to defend himself before his true form could awaken. And with that disappearance and Taejin taking Mori, the flashback ends, revealing that Taejin was actually retelling the story to Mujin as they're both locked up in a prison by Nox. And quickly, just some more context for the anime onlys. So we all know that Taejin got locked up and taken by Nox, but Mujin is locked up because Mangyuk was able to pretty much take over South Korea and threw him in jail after capturing him. So we have Taejin and Mujin locked up in the same facility, at least at this point in the story. But the story isn't quite done yet. I'm sure most of you know this whole lore about Taejin being able to beat all of the 6 by himself. In the original telling of the story, Taejin was able to 1v5 every one of the 6 besides Kim Eungyo. Then at the very end of the fight, Eungyo and Taejin clashed, creating a big explosion, but Taejin was the only one that was able to get up from it. So this is kind of true. Taejin was able to defeat all 5 members of the 6, but he didn't actually defeat Eungyo. Now, this isn't saying that Taejin wasn't strong enough to defeat Eungyo, but the big explosion wasn't caused by their clash, it was caused by the awakening of Mori after he broke out of his crystal, exploding and defeating Eungyo and further knocking out the rest of the 6 in the process. From this day forward, Taejin spent the rest of his life training, trying to improve renewal taekwondo, kind of taking the blame for the rest of his team dying in North Korea, saying that if his techniques were more refined, more precise, and if he was just stronger in general, he would have been able to save all of them. But as he was training, one day Mori started copying some of his techniques, so then he decided to dedicate the rest of his life to train Mori and eventually fight him one day as kind of a fun sparring session between them. And that's it for the end of chapter 118 and the end of the Jin Taejin arc. Now, as I was saying at the beginning of this video, this was just a flashback arc, and the next arc, which is the Sage Realm arc, picks up right at the end of where the anime left off. So I'll be going over the Sage Realm arc in next Monday's video. Let me know what you think about this video down below, and if you're excited to see the next one, and I know that you enjoyed the video, so go ahead and drop a like. And to stay up to date with all of my future videos, One Piece, God of Highschool, general anime and manga topics, make sure to subscribe.